I'm 2 minutes late. I'm 3 minutes late. I'm 3 minutes late. I will boom dance for you because I'm 3 minutes late. Give you something nice to think about. Dancing is just great. It's great for the soul. It's great for the mind. I really, really, really enjoy doing this. Sharing what has been shared with me, either via nature or via ideas. And I really try to make it here on time, but I found out that there's some people that like to watch, but don't like to don't like to comment. And I had to think about that for about 3 minutes. And because I was obligated to think about that for 3 minutes, couldn't start the show. Anyway, welcome back to the Inner Storyteller. Welcome back to your real life. If you are here, you're in for real conversations, good people. We talk about everything. We talk about religion. We talk about natural law. We talk about money, anarchy, culture, and how humanity is manipulated from the shadows by forces that don't have our best interests at heart. Perhaps because they're all completely evil. I don't know. But we don't spend time. I say we talk about religion. We're not like bashing faith systems here. Um, we're examining the psychological causes and effects of the stories that we have the most faith in and how those stories help shape society. And that examination always has to sit right alongside an honest look at the current human condition, which is slavery. Government is slavery, good people. The question that we always have to return to in this show is what can actually be improved with a proper understanding of the inner storyteller and how it works. Now, today's episode, we are getting into the religion of monetary value, part 7. Okay, we have been into the religion of monetary value and we're not slowing down. Today, I'm breaking down the 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. uh, the 5 core false beliefs. Or another way you could put it, the 5 false core beliefs of the religion of monetary value. Basically, the belief structure that maintains the mind control and keeps the system, the manifested in reality system, intact. These are the core beliefs. Many people probably don't realize that they hold these core beliefs until you say something to them like, well, remember, money's not real anyway. And in fact, monetary value is something that a very few make the rest of us adhere to like a religion. And if we want to move toward real freedom for humanity, then all of money and all of government would probably have to be done away with as the games that they are. Right? As soon as you say that, people say what? They say, no, well, how do you allocate resources? How does everybody get fed? How does everybody get clothed? How does everybody get cell phones? And whatnot, right? You get these types of questions. And we're going to explore the 5 core beliefs that make people jump to these types of questions before even examining whether the assertion that money is not real and is at the root of all major human family issues, what makes them ignore considering if that's true or not? You know what I'm saying? Because if that is true, which it is, in my opinion, that would imply that it's our responsibility to put down the game. Because we can't make our children do it, they don't play the game under a certain age. And we can't make our parents do it because they won't listen to us. So that implies it's on us. Now, back in part 3 of this series, I laid out the sequence. The religion of monetary value is the mother of all religions. The religion of man's authority, which is, you know, the religion that postulates that government, monarchy, uh, every form of armed enforcement and rulership has ever taken is legitimate. That is the father of all religions. And I showed you in part 3, which again, I'm just going to say one time, please go to part 3 and share it. Okay? That video is important for humanity in my opinion because it at least lays out the game in a way that I don't think people have heard before and would be useful for anyone who has any inclination towards human freedom, right? Or freedom for the whole human family and not just financial freedom for themselves and their immediates, um, which is not really freedom at all, because then you're enslaved to the financial freedom in a way, in many ways, I should say. Anyway, let's get back to my notes. Let's not go off on too many tangents here. I showed you in part 3 that this isn't my philosophical position merely. It's documented historical sequence going back 5,000 years to ancient clay tablets in ancient Sumer, which is the civilization that birthed almost everything that we consider modern: writing, agriculture, bookkeeping and accounting, banking, um, okay, all of these things, mystery schools, schools in general, education. They had the first of all of it. And there's, and there's that's contention. That's not the 100% consensus from all anthropology whatsoever, but there's a general consensus that Sumer was first to have these things: animal husbandry, a lot of these things, right? And so, even as far as ancient Sumer, there was taxation. There was the religion of monetary value. So this is not just coming from my own head or out of my own butt. Okay? It's not coming from there. What I want to do today is go underneath the sequence and look at the root of it, because a religion does not run on history alone, right? It runs on belief, it runs on um, convictions, ideas, and strong opinions and faith in those things. And underneath the religion of monetary value sits 5 false core beliefs, or 5 core false beliefs. Okay, core beliefs, load bearing ones, sitting alongside plenty of non core false beliefs that hang off of them. You take these 5 beliefs out of human being, or out of the human family, and the entire structure of the monetary game falls apart without necessarily damaging um, opportunities and food and housing and freedom and whatnot for the civilians of the world. Although, of course, it may not be so good for those who are just, who are the elite class back when these 5 beliefs were still instilled. But before we get into any of the beliefs individually, there's something that has to be acknowledged. Okay? This is the ground that everything sits on. What I want to acknowledge first is that humanity suffers. We suffer greatly. We suffer traumatically and tragically. Okay? And not randomly, right? Obviously, not without cause, not without responsibility. humanity suffers as a direct result of humanity's choices to align with false beliefs. Now, that acknowledgement leads to a second one. If false beliefs held at scale are producing or resulting in suffering at scale, then real change in behavior, the kind that is measured in generations, right? Not news cycles. Real change has to come through worldview, okay? And not just tweaks to some policy, not just we need better people to enforce the stuff, not better enforcement, not smarter designed, bolted into the same foundation. The worldview itself has to move. Okay, if belief is the key to unlocking the door to exploring the roots of the problem, then worldview has to be involved in the real solution. It looked like I froze for a second. The worldview has to move, and it has to move en masse, not just a few individuals who already agree with each other, but the people that are expected to put on the police uniforms, the soldier uniforms, the business suits, the judge robes, put on the wigs, put on the makeup, put on the costume, and go out and continue these games. Okay? Those people would have to change their worldview alongside the people who are the obedient class, the working class, and the starving class. If you don't agree with me there, then that's where the conversation would have to begin. Right? Everything else would be a little premature. But if we agree, even just on a basic level, without diving into specifics, if we agree on a basic level that people in general are required, not just should, but are required to align closer to truth, to objective truth, in order to achieve real behavioral change at scale, then we can get into the 5 core beliefs of the religion of monetary value. And let me go ahead and pull up today's thumbnail, as it is quite, sorry, here it is, quite cool in my opinion. So you can see, number 1, we have, when someone gives you an apple, you owe them an orange. When someone gives you an apple, you owe them an orange. Number 2, monetary value exists. Number 3, value can be disconnected from the present moment. It's a very important point. This is a belief that some may not even know that they have this belief. But once I dive into it, you'll be like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Hopefully. I promise that is it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen to you specifically, Mr. Viewer, Mrs. Viewer. Authority over the use of force. Okay, authority, meaning vested authority, over use of force. Defensive force, offensive force, is necessary for human flourishing. A lot of people hold that as a core belief. We have to have the police and the military do what they do, and we have to just accept that there's going to be bad apples, and we have to hold the belief that there's good ones. There's good ones. Right? So, and if we didn't have it, what if somebody did a crime? What if somebody did a crime? That's the belief. And then number 5, the free market is the solution, but the bad actors, the bad guys, keep messing all the things up. Okay? So, numero uno. When someone gives you an apple, you owe them an orange. This is the root. Every other false core belief on this list stands up on top of this one, which is exactly why it's the hardest belief to actually shake from one's psyche and recognize when it's trying when you're thinking along the lines of this belief system, and actually choose not to act as if you're thinking along those lines. It's very hard to do that with this core belief. Although the logic I'm getting ready to break down shouldn't be hard to understand, it's definitely hard to, let's say, put this in practice to its extreme, to any extreme. And I'm not advocating for extreme actions. I'm just saying in general. So it feels like if someone gives you an apple, you owe them an orange. It's called reciprocity. It feels like that's the most obviously true thing in the world. That you have to be reciprocal. You have to practice reciprocity, right? But here's the thing. Reciprocity is not a law of nature, right? Um, you think of, if I give the seed water and sunlight and time, then the seed will grow into the tree. It's like, yeah, sure, but trees were here long before we were here, and the laws of nature were already in play. And there are droughts. There are naturally occurring phases of this 3D place where either sunlight or water is unavailable to the seeds or to the growing trees or to the growing plants of any kind in a specific place. You know, just because reciprocity is not required or acknowledged by nature itself. Okay, it's not a law of nature. It's a story. Reciprocity is a story, and it's a story about an event layered on top of the event after the fact. Okay, the story getting layered on top of the actual lived experience of the event after the event is done. That's what reciprocity is. It's a story about that moment. Nature doesn't require or acknowledge exchange of any kind. Kindness does happen. Kindness happens in the now, in the present moment, and it's complete in itself. If someone gives you an apple, by golly gee, they gave you an apple. Be thankful. If they request an orange and you have one and you choose to give them an orange, by golly gee, you gave them an orange. And the story that's told often is they gave you an apple, so you gave them an orange. What's true is they gave you an apple. You gave them an orange. Without the um, without the implication that it's due to the fact that you got an apple from them, you owed them the orange. You owed them uh, um, a response in kind. That nature was going to do something if you didn't give them the orange or something, right? So kindness happens in the now, complete in itself. The second that you attach, and therefore something is owed back, as soon as that gets attached to the act of giving, you've left the actual event behind and you've stepped into narrative. You've let the Inner storyteller write a debt into something that was in its raw form just a moment of care between two people. And this isn't only a natural law claim, by the way. We already spent real time in part 3 and part 6, I believe, with David Graeber's research. The anthropological record is backing all of this up from a completely different direction. Graeber's work dismantled the barter first then money myth that a lot of economics textbooks um, teach. I know that that's what I was taught for sure. That first there was barter, and then money came in to fix barter's inefficiencies. I don't know, to fix the problems that barter created or whatever. Money came in. That's how they taught. But no, actually, um, economies did not start with any sort of barter. They always started with the credit debt, credit and debt, credit debt, and then some branched off and tried barter or tried other things. The what the evidence actually shows, going back to these clay tablets in ancient Sumer and beyond, is that debt and credit appeared before money and money appeared before barter, not the other way around, as I just said. Two completely different paths of inquiry, one philosophical, one anthropological, but they arrive at the same destination, right? Owing someone is not innate, it's installed. So I was going to try to dive into that a little bit more, but I think you should just go back and watch part 3 because I don't want to misspeak on the topic here. So, boom. Number 2, monetary value actually exists. Monetary value is real. This also feels like this one. It's funny. Whenever I have a conversation about this, I just had a conversation about this with John Bush, who may come on the show to actually discuss these very core beliefs um, at some point, because this is kind of what we were talking about. But and whenever, it doesn't matter who I'm talking to, I'm just excited that he might come back on the show. Thinking about it, but whenever I have this conversation, the money, the notion that monetary value is not real makes people so confused. It's like a part of them wants to say, "Well, I know that already." Another part of them wants to say, "No, but we agree that it is real, and that agreement is legitimate." Another part of them wants to say, "Oh, you're one of those." Another part of them wants to say, like, "Well, without it, how would we organize our big project?" Like, you know, but they can't give any reality to monetary value. Now, you can give reality to money, right? You have the digital form of money or multiple digital forms of money, and you have multiple paper forms of money and coinage. And these and then bullion, I guess, block bricks of silver, bricks of um, gold, stuff like that, right? These physical and digital symbols represent units of monetary value. But monetary value itself is still illusory, is still completely fictional. So once belief number 1 is accepted as true, that reciprocity is um, necessary and like naturally uh, a law of nature, okay? that if someone gives you an apple, if someone gives you a haircut, you owe them something. If someone gives you a product of some kind, you owe them something. If someone gives you their time, you owe them something. If someone gives you money, you owe them something or whatever. Now, I'm not saying, if you agree to do something with somebody, go back on your word. I'm just saying there's no law of nature. That's why people can steal and nature doesn't go get them for it, right? Karma does respond to the moral weight of your choices, but, karma is not like nature preventing something from happening because it goes against the law of nature. That's what I'm talking about. You can't, if you jump off the bridge saying, no, I'm so determined to fly with just my, sort of the clothes on my back, uh, and you jump, nature is going to get you. Nature is going to say, well, I can't play favorites with magnetism and gravity, and you're gonna fall. You're gonna fall. So there's no law in nature governing that reciprocity is required. It's just kindness. But once that belief is accepted as true, someone gives you an orange, you owe them an apple. This belief, monetary value, is real, kind of follows almost automatically. If an exchange creates some sort of debt, then there has to be some sort of real unit for measuring, or what they call settling, the debt that's owed. Settling, accounting for the reciprocity. But monetary value isn't a feature of reality the same way that, like I said, magnetism, gravity, mass, these things are a part of reality. It's just a shared story, a collective agreement drawn up by a very select, very manipulative few every time. And a collective agreement that only works because enough people are running the same story at the same time in the same place. But nothing about the value exists independently of the belief that it does. Take the belief away, which only exists in mental space. Take the belief away, or change the belief into no, it doesn't. And the symbols on the paper, or the symbols on the computer screen, or the symbols in any other type of ledger don't mean anything anymore. But monetary value isn't, being real isn't the most practically important belief to tackle here, because that's really just an on and off switch. And the next one is what keeps you from flipping that one off. Okay, so this number three, is the the crux. You could say the number one is the central pillar, but number three is not on the fringes. Number three is also doing a lot of load bearing. Okay, so false belief number three is that value can be disconnected from the present moment. And again, I know that title of this belief is on its face not necessarily the most clear, but let's break it down. Let's break it down. So this is the mechanism that makes belief number two usable day by day. And the trick that lets a fiction function like it's substantial and on solid ground. A complete fiction, monetary value. So let's talk about it. When we set a price on something, when we say this phone is $800, right? Or this phone with the plan and whatnot, 800. No, no, no. Yeah, it is the phone itself. Sorry, I don't buy things. I let my wife do those things. This phone is $800, right? When we set a price on something, we make that price and our access to that thing, whatever the resource is, temporarily stagnant with what we call monetary value. Okay? We stagnize the quote unquote value temporarily. Prices do change, right? If you observe the market, prices fluctuate, they go up and down. And then there's, inflation and other factors that will weigh on prices, how big your team is, how much you can lose when you do a launch at first for, the first 2 years. And then after you know, so many units are sold, now the graph changes and you're into profit again. There's a lot of factors that go into prices changing. That's not what we're talking about. When you put a price on something, that's what it costs that year, that season. That's what it costs. That even, the point is you decide it and then you stick it on paper or a price tag or a barcode, and that's what the price is. And you temporarily stagnate this thing. You disconnect its aliveness, the aliveness of the person that's going to use it or eat it or whatever. You disconnect its aliveness from the present moment. So the value doesn't get to be viewed case by case anymore. And any change in price that comes later from market response can't be simultaneously accurate and immediate. Okay, it's always a step or two behind reality, correcting from a snapshot that was already wrong the moment it was taken. A haircut is not $30. When you hear that sentence, what comes to your mind? A haircut is not $30. It's not. There is no real fixed personal definition of what $30 is actually worth to you. That depends entirely on the present moment. Who you are right now, what you have right now, what you need right now. Pricing, on the other hand, takes something that is happening, something with an ing on it, something that's alive and contingent and relational, and it freezes it into a noun, right? But value, as it's experienced in the human psyche, is a verb. It's like you say love is a verb, right? Price tries to convert the verb into a noun. And our and this creates chaos. And this creates chaos because the point of a monetary system is access to resources and people, which and the definition of resources also includes food, clean water, and things like clothing and hygiene stuff that keep us young, if you will. Okay? That means your survival is directly connected. No matter what time era you were born in, no matter anything, you have a survival. How to say? I was going to say you have a survival instinct connected, but that's not the right way to say it. You have such a deep connection to the money game from birth that it's tied to your access to food, clean water, hygiene, shelter, sometimes love. Right? Money is how you thrive here right now. Not really, but that's the belief system. Pricing takes something that's happening, separates it from the present moment, tries to make it a noun, and that creates chaos because your natural living experience can never and will never actually really jive with this whole transaction thing that we tell ourselves has to happen for projects to get done. That leads us into number 4. Number 4. This one, if you're, any type of fan of my content, you knew something like this was going to make it into the list. And it's true. This feeds directly off of belief number 2. False belief number 4 is authority over the use of force is necessary for human flourishing. This is the belief that someone somewhere has told someone somewhere has to hold the sanctioned right, the divine right, to compel their peers to follow their orders. Okay? The belief that someone somewhere or a small group of people, as long as they test into a specific set of organizations, has to, must, should even hold the sanctioned right to compel their peers to follow their orders. That flourishing, and it says that flourishing requires a party with discretionary access to physical force. A gang, if you will. And this is where part 3 comes all the way back around, because this isn't a standalone belief. It's the direct offspring of monetary value exists, belief number 2. And the historical record shows exactly how the birth of the state, which is the gang that has discretionary authority over the use of force, how the religion of monetary value gives birth to the religion of man's authority. Remember the clay tablets. Always come back to the clay version of an IOU note. It is so crazy to me too that we were dealing with promises and credit 5,000 years ago. But remember the clay tablets. The farmer whose debt was being recorded could not read them necessarily. Most of the world was illiterate, just like we are now. Okay, we're definitely financially illiterate, even though we're largely literate as far as we know our ABCs. The laborer whose output was measured, the merchant, that laborer couldn't verify the accounting for himself. The earliest monetary systems operated through symbols the vast majority of the population could not read, could not verify, could not really challenge, and that acceptance was never informed. Therefore, the system never got informed consent, much like today. It was compliance under threat and under conditions specifically designed to prevent examination of the system's levers and pulleys, basically. And a symbol system that nobody can verify has to be enforced physically, somehow. Okay? Because monetary value isn't real. So a debt system built on a fiction cannot enforce itself naturally, because there's nothing connecting the idea of monetary value to nature. There's nothing connecting the notion that this agreement means something morally to objective morality in nature. by its very nature, the monetary system. No matter how the system is designed, by the way. So not just it's designed this way. No, by its nature, before design, a system of monetary um, a system of economics, monetary economics, has to have physical enforcement created alongside it because nobody's going to understand the symbol system that makes up its rules, and that's in every economy ever, and that enforcement need is exactly what gives rise to the state. Okay, now someone has to administer the record. Someone has to decide this what the symbol is worth. The people that do the math, the people that do the organization, if you will, they have a different role than ordering around the armed enforcement apparatus. But somebody's got to do that part. Okay? That administration and enforcement in every form it has ever taken, from a monarch to a senate to some regulatory agencies that combine into a government to central banking systems that govern, all of that is what government is. Gubernare mentes, mens, mind control. Right? Gubernare meaning control, mens mentis meaning to steer, put together. Well, there was no V, letter V, in Latin, so, or in ancient whatever, wherever it comes from. So it's either B or P. So gubernare, you have the gubernatorial election for governor in a state. The highest office in a state is elected via the gubernatorial race. Gubernatorial, excuse me, gubernare, in, I believe it's Latin. I want to say Latin. If it's Greek or something, I'm sorry. It's an ancient whatever, some ancient language. Gubernare means to steer or control, and mens mentis, which meant, the anytime you have the suffix ment at the end of a word, supplement, right? Government is mind control. That's what the word government means, and that's what it is. And remember what Graeber said, Dr. Graeber. Dr. Graeber said, without ambiguity, states created markets, markets required states, neither could continue without the other. Okay? So the religion of monetary value is the mother that gives birth to the father of the religion of man's authority, not as a partner, but as a necessary product for the religion of monetary value to exist and be maintained. And that is why this core belief, authority over the use of force is necessary for human flourishing, is nothing but a fiction created by the fiction of monetary value existing, in my opinion. Belief number 4 is not a separate error sitting next to belief number 2. It is what belief number 2 has to produce once anyone tries to make it stick in the real world. And that, of course, leads us to belief number 5. The free market is the solution, but the bad guys just keep messing things up. Soul, I hear what you're saying, buddy. I know what you mean, man. You talk a good game, dude. But like, it's just like this, man. If if people would just follow the rules, man. It's like, well, sure, but if they just followed the rules, then the rules wouldn't need to be written down. They would just follow the rules. We would, like, yeah, but when do you know you're gonna run out of stuff? It's like, no, money is not the only record keeping that happens. We record keep for everything. And you see shit with your own eyes when you're talking about natural resources, right? You see, yeah, it's running out. Yeah, it's probably got this much time left. And people love to do math. And people love to predict, run simulations, whatever. People will continue to do those things. People love to invent. Um, all of these things people love to share. People love to cook. People love to grow food. People love to help other people do things that they don't love to do. People love to do things for people. People love to participate in great projects that don't pay. Like there's just no actual natural requirement for a transaction to ever take place ever. But people believe that the free market is the solution to economic freedom for all people, right? Or at least for Americans. This is the belief that people fall back on once they've grown suspicious of centralized authority. This is like level 1 freedom bro. Belief. Okay? It feels like an alternative to the mainstream to a lot of people. It isn't. It just kind of relocates the first 3 false beliefs instead of really escaping them. It relocates them to a different drawer in our sorting functions filing system. It still assumes that reciprocity is owed. It still assumes that monetary value is real. It still assumes that price is legitimate and a stand in for present moment worth and value, real value, energetic value. All it adds is a villain narrative. It says, if only the corrupt actors were outed and removed and exposed, then the system built on the other false premises would work. It would work as it was intended. Did you read what the founding fathers said? The foundation itself never really gets examined, right? In fact, Graeber has this line. He says, debt lets us treat what are fundamentally political arrangements, like questions of who has power over whom, as if they were simple arithmetic, a neutral tally, instead of a relationship of force. Right? And that notion, that belief that the free market would work if not for just, a few bad actors, makes that exact same move. It turns a power question into a math question, as if the human psyche and just the moral standing of your average human being and how easy it is for power to corrupt people bears no weight on the question of the legitimacy of government in the first place. Right? It's the same, like conservatives saying, oh, the way that they intended the thing. How do they say? Basically justifying the enslavement of really a whole bunch of people, but definitely the so-called Negro, the enslavement of the Negro being justified because slavery was everywhere and Africa had slaves. By people who espoused certain natural law principles, Christian principles, and espoused that they wanted freedom for all in some of their writings. It's like no, a hypocrite is a hypocrite is a hypocrite. It's just what it is: a snake and a coward. Okay, when you're talking about depriving someone of their freedom and having them treated as a slave every day in and day out, where you have these notions in your writings, in your public writings. So there they are. There they are. 5 beliefs, 5 core beliefs produced by and needed by the religion of monetary value. But really one root belief that kind of branches into 4 consequential trains of thought, right? That reciprocity is required. That if someone gives me an apple, I owe them an orange. And here's the thing. Reciprocity is a good thing. Okay? just because something isn't required by nature, that doesn't mean it can't be good. Okay, it just means it's a should. It's not a must. It's a should. It's not a guarantee. It's a should. It's not an effect. Okay, it's a cause. When you are reciprocal, or when someone is reciprocal to you, that causes something. That's not an effect. That's a choice and made in the now. If it's made in the now because of a false belief system, then okay, then that's how you have to frame it. But it's still made, and that's still a choice made in the now. You still chose under the belief system that reciprocity is owed to do the kindness. Okay, no one can take that choice from you, not even you. What story are you willing to live, good people? Please let me know in the comments. Thank you so very much for watching. I gotta admit, man, I'm pretty tired. You know, I work hard. It is. It has been over 100 degrees for, I believe, 6 or 7 days in a row, and I am a tired man. But I'm also pretty happy, and I appreciate. Uh, I will appreciate reading any comments that I do see in the coming days. Thank you all so very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Know what I mean?